All right, now, so please welcome Ben Dine from DME Studios.
Thank you, Tim. Hello, everyone. I'm going to keep this as informal as possible. That's kind of the way I am. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to walk through some case studies and some existing campaigns that our company's running. We've had the ability to work with some amazing clients and do so on a regular basis. And really the key of what we're going to talk about today is about relevance. Everything that we create, every campaign that we launch is based on this idea of making something that drives emotions, that gets someone to actually take action. We call it interruption, okay? Interruption marketing. So when I'm going through my daily tasks, day-to-day basis, what is it that's going to cause me to stop what I'm doing, pay attention to a marketing message, and then take action? Whether I'm an organization and I'm a member already, whether it's a retail outlet that I've shopped at in the past, or whether it's a sport team that I have an affinity for, the interruption and the ability to engage somebody with that relevant content becomes the most important thing you can put in front of them. A little bit about DME Studios before we get started. We're a full-service creative agency, and we've been working with corporate press for the better part of the past decade and had the opportunity to partner up basically to make campaigns relevant and engaging for individuals. The name DME Studios actually stems from a production company that we started years back, and that was our primary focus, was video production. As everybody's seen over the past decade or so, videos come center stage. People have become inherently lazy, for lack of a better term. And what we've seen is, while somebody will go out and they'll read a news story, when they can actually combine that and they can read an excerpt from that story and then have somebody actually tell them and illustrate that experience, it becomes that much more effective. So keeping in that theme, what we've done over the past 5-10 years has been to build out this full-service creative team where really our intellectual property becomes the creative members of our team, the strategic members of our team, and that ability to tell people stories. So that's really been where we started and where we're going. And like I said, we're all about creative talent. Being able to analyze an existing experience, an existing brand, and finding the most unique methodology and unique way to actually tell that story. Now, the best part about where our agency has come from and where we're at today has been the ability for us to not be tied to one specific type of media. So utilizing print, utilizing email, utilizing personalized web pages, social media, video, and multimedia side of things, just like Tim mentioned, we're able to become those scientists. We're able to analyze an existing workflow, an existing customer base, existing messaging, and figure out how can we enhance that workflow. And that's what we're going to really walk through here today, is some of those engaging pieces that actually drive response, that get people to stop, interrupt what they're doing, and then not just take action, but also share that with others. When we actually go through and see something, this is kind of the basis of social media. We see something that's interesting to us. We see something that's engaging, that really pulls on our heartstrings. We like to share that with people. We like to show others what it is about that, that we found specifically interesting. There's a statistic on here, 82% of the US internet audience has viewed a video online. All right, 82%. That's drastically increasing. And what we're seeing is people are being engaged by that multimedia. We're pulling on those heartstrings, and we're getting them to actually take an action and create that buying experience. Something that you're going to see here, and something that we've really been a pioneer in, has been a personalized video experience. We like to call this the ultimate product placement. The ability to take your customer and actually make them a part of a video experience and part of a campaign. So when I see a piece that comes out from, let's say, the Miami Dolphins, who I'm an NFL fan, and I see that I've actually been made a part of that experience, a part of that team, whether it's in a print piece that I receive or it's an email that comes into my inbox or on my smartphone, and I feel like, that's pulling on my heartstrings, that's something that's important to me and something that I have an affinity for, it's going to drive me to take action. It's going to drive a response from me, and it's at least going to cut through the clutter and get my attention. Now, if you're an organization, it's the same concept. It's, I've got an affinity for that brand. There's something about that brand, that organization, or that environment that's unique to me, that really pulls on those heartstrings. And that's what we like to do, is to create that experience. So I'm going to actually walk through the process of how we start a campaign. And to be honest, it all starts with data. What we do is we'll do an analysis of your existing customer base. And regardless of how you're currently communicating, there's one thing that's common, is that you have to know your audience and you have to find the most effective and most relevant way to connect with that audience. So we do what's called a data snapshot. We'll look at your current customers, your past customers, and we'll analyze, what do those buying groups look like? What do those funding groups look like? What do those fans look like? Okay, things like demographics, geographics, psychographics, and buying habits. And we're actually able to analyze and create basically buckets. These buckets are then designed so that as we start to craft the creative and the messaging and select the channels that we're using to connect with these individuals, those buckets are specifically designed so that each type of customer gets a relevant communication. So if you're looking at it, and you may have, from a demographic standpoint, 3 different buckets to start with. You may have a 25 to 35-year-old range, you may have a 35 to 50, and then you may have a 50 plus. We're going to immediately recognize the fact that different folks respond to different types of media. Okay? There may be a very, very important print play that spans across all 3 different types of audiences, but it may be a different type of piece. The younger demo may respond better to a postcard. Okay? Simple information on that postcard that's going to drive them to a web experience. Maybe has a QR code on it that's going to make that individual take an action. That middle demographic may have a better response to an actual email that goes out to them that's then followed up by a print piece that would then be in, let's say, a number 10 envelope. So what we do is we're going to track these different methodologies, and maybe getting ahead of myself here, so I'm going to walk through some campaigns so that there's actually some substance to it. But that's the idea, is to track and measure and put together the most effective way to connect with your audience and get them to take action, to raise their hand and say, hey, I'm interested, and then prompt follow-up and buying decisions. This is the first case study for a company called PODI, which is a Caslon company. They had a very difficult task. This was their 2nd year running a trade show out in Las Vegas, and interestingly enough, they wanted to connect with marketing service providers. So we really had our work cut out for us here. What they needed to do was to engage these marketing service providers and get them to convince their bosses to send them out to this trade show in Las Vegas, a $1,200 buy-in per person, so that they could learn about the most innovative and integrated marketing techniques. We started off with a budget of less than $20,000. And the idea was that in order for them to generate enough response to legitimize the campaign, they needed to have 80 responders and 80 attendees that were from this campaign itself. So in the past, what they had done is a traditional outbound print piece that was standalone, that drove somebody to an enrollment site where then they could sign up and attend the event. It was a static campaign. They knew they'd gotten a 3% response rate because they had a very, very targeted audience. So in the grand scheme of things, what they'd done in the past, it wasn't a bad workflow, but they needed to get more bang for their buck and figure out a more integrated and innovative way to do that. What you're looking at is the creative from the campaign. And what we came up with was a pretty unique workflow. The campaign started with a print piece that you can actually see right here in the lower right-hand corner, lower left-hand corner of the screen. So the print piece actually utilized the Welcome to Las Vegas sign and incorporated the individual's first name written on the sign in a comparable text. The call to action on the print piece was to drive somebody to a landing page that had a personalized URL with it that actually gave them a personalized experience, and we foreshadowed this idea of it being a personalized video that was made just for you that would basically create this unique experience. The second acquisition piece that went out hand in hand was an email campaign. The emails, as you can see, appear to have embedded video in them, which is a tactic that's used quite a bit now in the acquisition phase, as basically we're giving somebody the idea that there is video, it is embedded in this experience, and we're driving clicks. What we've seen is a 3-time higher click rate that actually takes place on the simulated video window in these emails, as opposed to a static HTML text link that's going to be in the piece itself. Once somebody visited their personalized URL, so whether it came from the print piece or it was a click-through from the email, they landed on this video play page, which you'll see in the center of the screen. Now, in order to make this experience unique and relevant, what we did is we created a character who you're seeing here in the middle, and I'll show you the media in a second here, but his name is Herman. And Herman was a disgruntled employee that worked at a comparable marketing company. Basically, the idea was Herman was quite upset because his employer wouldn't send him to this expo. And his employer lived in what he called the dark ages. So Herman was pleading with you through this video experience that you actually go and attend this event so that you could get the experience, you could gain the knowledge that his employer wouldn't let him have. Now, aside from him making this plea to you, he also showed some personalized elements within the video itself. You know, as I talked about the ultimate product placement, the idea was engage somebody and make them feel like they're a part of this experience, that Herman was actually singling them out and trying to get them to take action, to take advantage of this experience. Now, what was unique about this was once I got the print piece, once I got the email campaign that went out to me and I went to the landing page to view this video, Herman started this ongoing, what we call a trigger effect. So the first video would go out, I'd watch that video, and that would trigger our system. 2 business days later, I'd receive a follow-up email. That email would again have a screenshot of Herman in it, who you'd already been introduced to. It would be a personalized email that went out, and it would urge you to go back that Herman had an update for you. What we were doing was building on this ongoing campaign and getting somebody to take action, realizing the fact that just because somebody visits a landing page doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to buy or activate. So we had this set up triggered system that now this second video played for you, and it was basically Herman getting more and more upset and frantic that he couldn't go to this particular show. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this initial video, that way you can see what we're talking about.
Hello everyone, welcome back. It's me, Herman. Welcome to my weekly video blog. I know this isn't my regularly scheduled time slot, but I have something I need to get off my chest. As most of you know, I work for a print and marketing services provider, and right now I'm a little beside myself. You see, there's this event coming up called PODI App Forum 2012, and it's the premier forum for the latest technologies, business strategies, techniques, and methodologies in digital print, one-to-one direct mail, and cross-media integration. So if you're a business owner, a marketing or production professional, it's a no-brainer. But will I be attending? No. You're probably asking yourself, why? I mean, I'm a printing professional, I have to be there. Well, because my company lives in the dark ages, I'm stuck here fulfilling 10,000 packages with personalized items by hand. Wow, personalized, you say? I mean, that's cutting edge. Not so much. Let me show you how we personalize. Really? I mean, you serious? This is pathetic. But the good news is I only have 9,999 more to go. I'm sorry, it's just that if we were going to App Forum, we could learn new and effective sales strategies, cross-media integration techniques that our customers want, and ways to automate our workflows. We'd even learn how to create cool, cinematic quality, personalized videos, and all these other new things that I keep seeing our competitors do, but no. Oh no, instead, we like to hand make crap like this to give to our customers. I'm sorry, I'm just taking this a little hard. Anyway, if you are not attending PODI's App Forum 2012, you really need to be. Between the keynote speakers, the networking opportunities, the educational forums, you guys are going to come out, once again, way ahead of me. I'm just going to be here, stifled by my own ineffectiveness. This is Herman, out.
All right. So that was the idea, and what you saw there was a personalized experience which is hard-coded in this presentation for Herman, and it really was a unique way to engage that audience, but through a very, very comedic piece that everyone could understand and really resonated with the audience. Herman was a character that our creative team just basically made up, and we went through the process of making that appear to be a webcam that he was shooting on. And that was the initial touch that got somebody engaged with the program. What we saw was the individuals would come through and they'd view that video, and the initial program that went out that engaged the audience got them into that workflow and got them excited about the campaign and got them excited about what they could learn at this particular event. And like I said, we didn't count on that initial touch being the deal breaker for these people and getting them to actually take action. So what we did was, on the actual page itself, there was actually an Inform My Boss link. So we made it easier for the recipients to send this type of video directly to their boss and basically share with a colleague type. Now, what was unique was, so my boss gets this email, and as he clicks through, here's this, this comedic guy that's telling the story about this great opportunity that he can't go to. Well, we created a separate workflow for the bosses in this case. So the boss actually got a personalized experience that was all about them. Now, jump ahead to the analytics side for our customer. What they're now able to look at is see the correlation between the parent who originally got this initial communication, and now you've got the children who are being passed or referred throughout the campaign. So we're able to then analyze the viral ability within these individual buying groups, which now has increasing value to our customer and to us for future communications, because we now know who those influencers and decision makers are, and we'll get into the actual the click-throughs and responses here in just a second. So once they got engaged, once that initial video played for them, they were in this triggered, or this drip workflow, like we like to call it. So idea being, I've raised my hand, now I've got these future communications. And what happened with Herman is he got more and more frantic, and I won't make you watch all of the pieces, but I will show you one of the final videos. So these follow-up communications were then spawned directly to the individual.
Hey everyone, it's me, Herman. I want to apologize to my audience for the way I've been acting in the last couple of broadcasts. I should be happy for all of you, and I shouldn't let my personal grievances just affect me so much. So, congratulations on signing up for PODI's App Forum 2012. I know you're going to enjoy it thoroughly. You'll learn amazing things from amazing people, network with a vast amount of reputable companies and professionals, and just have a great time overall. Vegas in January, Tropicana Hotel. Couldn't get any better, right? Just maybe if I was going, sorry, yeah, I told myself I wouldn't do that. Anyway, be sure to attend all the keynote speaker sessions. The tracks on sales and business growth, cross-media technologies and cutting-edge apps, all the pre-conference intensives, and don't miss that session on how to create and implement personalized videos that rock. You'll be able to see how the latest technology and video personalization can really drive demand for print and cross-media campaigns. Heck, attend all the sessions if you can. I know I would. So I just want to wish you all the best and a good time in Vegas at one of the best events of its kind. This is such bullshit.
So at the event itself, we were actually able to showcase Herman and then break down the entire campaign. So all these individuals had actually seen the experience, they'd been through the workflow, and they saw basically how Herman had gotten them to take action and then see how that whole campaign was put together. So it was a pretty unique experience for people, but that idea of being able to craft a completely custom message for each individual recipient became that much more powerful and that much more important. As I mentioned with the direct mail, the traditional workflow that they had yielded a 3% response rate, which actually, in terms of response rate, was quite high. And they had a very, very finite audience they were communicating with. We were able to double that percent response rate and go to a 7.5% response and activation rate through our workflow. And like I mentioned, this was less than $20,000 spend. So this was something that we really had to put together a unique program and something that would engage these individuals, get them to take action and drive those hand raisers to get involved. So the return on investment was approximately $120,000 on that $20,000 spend. and the residual value of those clients for the following year, they had 90% of them renew for the following year as well. So when you're looking at an organization and a workflow, there's obviously that value in creating that experience for an individual that's unique, that gets them excited about an experience, then making sure that you're actually following through on that promise and making sure that they're experiencing exactly what it was that you foreshadowed for them. Feel free, if anybody has any questions throughout this, feel free to throw a hand up and we'll handle it. We'll also have a question and answer session towards the end of the presentation after lunch as well. Another similar budget, and the reason that I'm throwing the budgets in here for these campaigns is just to kind of frame the types of campaigns that can be created and what's realistic as far as the execution goes. These integrated campaigns can be very, very scientific and obviously all be data-driven, but that doesn't mean that they need to cost an arm and a leg. And the name of the game from our standpoint is really testing to see what works. So this was a program that we put together for Xerox, and Xerox has an interesting situation right now because Xerox is transitioning out of being just a printer and becoming more of a communications company. They've actually gotten very, very deep into the software side of things. So Xerox is now, they've acquired a company over in Israel that specializes in a lot of the data-driven communications side of things. So what we did is we worked with Xerox and their internal team to put together an acquisition model that allowed them to connect in a B2B space with enterprise level marketing, CMO level individuals, and with the idea of basically these individuals have to connect with their customers on a regular basis, and they needed a unique workflow to, like I said, disrupt these individuals and get them to respond, raise their hand so that salespeople could actually follow up with the individual leads. So we started off with a workflow that looks like this piece behind me, and what we like to do is to map out kind of what this communication workflow is going to look like. We call it a customer journey. So from a customer experience standpoint, what is the journey that that individual would go through? And just like most campaigns, it started off with a database. So we put together a prospect database along with the customer to identify the level and the type of customer in a B2B space that was their ideal customer. We then did a data load, and just like I mentioned with the buckets, we segmented those customers into verticals between the financial space to the actual retail markets, as well as the technology space. And what we realized was the communications that went out to these individuals needed to be customized, not only for that individual, but also for their company itself. So each company would have a unique experience and a unique flavor. Now, the workflow was that this would initially be deployed via email, that these individuals would get an email, which they'd then click through, and similar to the prior campaign, they'd go to a web environment where now we can identify, number one, that they raise their hand, so that there's some interest level there. But number two, once we get them into that web environment, we can now see what their interests are. Okay, what are they clicking on? What are those hot buttons? What is it that's unique for these individuals? So once they were in that environment, we used multimedia to engage them and tell this story about how by joining with Xerox and with XMPie, they can be what's called the star of the show. Okay, so similar to our theme here today, it's all about engaging with relevant communications and getting them to actually take action. So I'm going to pop forward so you can see the communication that went out. What you're seeing in the lower right-hand corner here is what the email actually looked like. So once again, we're using the idea of simulated video in the email itself to get somebody excited and get them to click through and increase the conversion rate there. And upon clicking through and visiting this experience, we'd actually have a personalized video for that individual, which would be completely custom for them and their company, and it would showcase that personalized media. This is a better look at the piece itself. The industry was specifically called out here in the top header as well. So whether it was hospitality and travel or it was financial space, the imagery was consistent as well as the individual's name was included in there. On the page itself, we gave them a very, very simple way to get in touch with the individual sales representative. So what you can see is the individual sales rep and their contact information in the upper right-hand corner here, as well as an easy-to-follow form where they could submit inquiries after watching this. And the real showcase here was the idea of utilizing this type of integrated media to drive response and drive return on investment from their side, just like they were experiencing. So the idea of drinking your own Kool-Aid and actually utilizing the technology to engage your customers that you're hoping to allow those individuals to leverage to engage their end customers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the multimedia piece here that's actually going to take you through what somebody would have received. So both the landing page as well as the video were customized not only for the recipient, for their company, but also had their sales rep included in the end of the video. So a headshot as well as the contact information for that individual rep. This is actually a campaign that's just recently been rolled out, and they're using it in an ongoing marketing effort. So it's something that's been pretty exciting for them, and that ability to actually showcase their individual sales reps in the piece itself and get that individual, that face, that appearance in front of these end customers, so that now when Ben calls an individual customer to follow up on this particular campaign, they can put a name with a face. They can see, okay, I've already received this piece, and it now gives a relevant subject for that individual to talk to the recipient about. It really goes back to that idea of ultimate product placement and engaging that recipient and that audience. This is another campaign that just recently launched, actually about 2 weeks ago, and it's for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The idea here was their season's about to get started here, and the Jaguars had kind of a unique situation. They had about a third of their season ticket holders that just hadn't responded, had gone completely cold, I should say. And for a professional sports team, this is a big problem because their lifeblood is making sure that their customers, their season ticket holders, turn over and renew year over year. That's very, very common and typical in these campaigns and in these sports teams. Obviously, you've got a very select audience and a very emotional group of people. So if the team doesn't have a good year, they've really got to do some outside-of-the-box campaigns and find ways to engage people and keep those conversations going. It's no secret that they've had a tough time. And unfortunately, this year doesn't look like it's going to be much better. So rather than putting together a campaign that focused on the actual team, what we did was we focused on the fans, and we talked about the family and the fact that you play an integral role in the success of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Again, the ultimate product placement. Make that individual feel like they're special. Make them realize that they're a part of the family. And we had a two-touch outbound campaign that we put together. And rather than just reaching out to somebody and saying, you know what, Mr. Jones, you haven't responded to our other messaging, but we need you to go ahead and renew those tickets, we decided to come up with an exclusive experience for them. So we actually created a barbecue, which was a VIP event, and talked with the team and talked with the coaching staff about actually having the players and coaches attend this event to really sweeten the deal. So the idea was we'd send people communications, and we knew these individuals had varying values to the team with regards to the monetary value of each consumer, but we wanted everybody that was a past season ticket holder that had an affinity for that brand to have the opportunity to go and rub shoulders, rub elbows with the coaching staff and the team itself. So this is what the piece actually looked like that went out to the individual. It was very, very simple, very, very clean, and it was actually an oversized postcard format. And what we did is we specifically sent this out a week and a half before the actual event. So we wanted to know very, very quickly if people would come to this event and figure out what follow-up communications we needed to do to get people there. So we sent this out to about 3,500 individuals that hadn't yet responded and that the communication had gone cold with. And what we included on here was a personalized URL. So the ability for us to basically track and give somebody a personalized experience and find out, okay, who's interested, who would come to this event, and give them an easy way to RSVP for it. Now, as you saw in some of these other campaigns, we also utilized multimedia to engage these people and make them realize that, you know what, without them, it just doesn't work. They are part of this team. They're the missing link in the chain, and we needed them to attend this event. Now, the media itself featured a pretty unique actor here who basically his goal was to make people realize that they were the missing link, that they were the missing element. And I'll play that here for you.
Touchdown Jacksonville! Oh my goodness!
Jaguars fans, the flagrant and muscle-tense fanatics who come together in the throes of stadium mayhem. Jaguars fans are the glue, a sea of raging passion, flooding to the seats in this stadium to spend 60 minutes yelling and screaming in loyal support of their team. The importance of the fan is defined by more than their creativity with body paint or their audacity to play dress-up. Their importance is defined here, in these seats. And in their absence, well, who knows what could happen.
Touchdown Jacksonville! Oh my goodness!
So I say to you, Jaguar fans, know and embrace your importance. Because without you here, it just doesn't work. And I know you've said things like, this team sucks. Well, I can attest that this team is young and is ready to fight for every inch until the end. We all have a job to do, and yours is to help support this team. Besides, we know who you are. Just kidding, but really we do. It's a new era here, new coach, new uniforms, new attitudes. Heck, we're even adding $63 million in stadium improvements, including the world's largest end zone video boards. I'm not trying to brag. Well, yeah, I am. But hey, you can't say we didn't try. So I implore you, stand united and support the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Ladies and gentlemen, now, taking the field, your Jackson.
So several points throughout that video were personalized. There are actually 5 different pieces. The sign that was being held at the beginning of the video by the individual in the line as you came through, as well as the scoreboard that was up there with all of your information. Just really a tongue-in-cheek way to, like I said, disrupt somebody and get them excited about an event. What was interesting was, as we saw the RSVPs come in for this event, we started getting comments back from the season ticket holders asking if they could share the experience with others. And this was kind of a tricky situation because obviously this was a very exclusive event and we didn't want the masses showing up at this particular barbecue. So we ended up rendering out specific videos for individuals that asked without the actual call to action on there so they could be shared and they could be passed around, which was a pretty unique experience for them. What we're now looking at doing is taking this individual and building him out as almost a spokesperson for the brand and these particular groups of season ticket holders. The event actually happened last Thursday, and an exciting thing about it was one of the RSVPs that came in was from a Coca-Cola executive who happened to have just over $118,000 worth of season tickets that hadn't responded to any of the prior communications that did go ahead and end up RSVPing as well as actually pulling the trigger on their tickets again. So it's that idea of being able to disrupt somebody but get them excited and feature that ultimate product placement, as we call it, and get them to actually respond and then take action there. It becomes a pretty exciting thing, not only for the client but also for the end user and for the fan itself. When we talk about product placement, something that people are pretty excited about as the industry continues to improve is the real estate side of things. And we've been working with Keller Williams to create a workflow that's again personal and relevant to the end consumers. And something that we've been looking at is coming up with a situation that would allow individual realtors to create a personalized experience where they're able to put themselves in front of their audience, whether it's somebody that's selling a home or somebody that's buying a home, and create that workflow so that on a monthly basis, they've got a reason to reach out. They've got new content that they can provide their individual pipelines, and make sure that it's personalized and that it talks about what's currently happening in their market. So we were tasked with coming up with a campaign that they could use for an ongoing basis that would essentially do just that. And what we created was almost a karaoke style experience where an agent could actually go to a landing page, which you're seeing here on the either outsides of the screen. They could select a video from an archive that was in here, and they could actually follow a karaoke script where they could create a personalized experience, actually utilizing their voice. So you'd hear their voice telling the story of what the current market was doing in that individual area. So here's what the media ended up looking like as we go through it. Now, what you're seeing here is this is the base movie file. So what basically would happen here is the individual's audio recording would sit over top this piece itself, and they would then be able to tell the story. You'd actually hear their voice. You'd actually see what the actual interest rates were in that particular area, and then you'd be able to see their individual photo towards the end of the piece itself. And this one would be for Steve Smith. But it's a unique way to put the current market conditions in front of an individual and get them engaged. Now, little pieces throughout this, what the housing market was doing the month before, what the current interest rates were, what inventory was like in their specific area, all then play into that idea of relevance and relevant communications. The same thing holds true for Allstate Benefits in their space. So they were tasked with finding a better way to communicate with their audience and figuring out, okay, how can we tell this story to HR professionals in our B2B space? How can we engage those individuals? And how can we cut back on some of the FaceTime and some of the presentations that they were having to give every time new employees actually joined their benefits programs? So what we did is we segmented about 30 different topics, which were essentially the frequently asked questions that came in to these different benefits managers. And we created a workflow that would basically allow Allstate to issue out personalized media presentations that were specific to each one of their customers and effectively told that story. So I'll let you watch one of these pieces here.
Accidents happen, from traffic crashes to slips and falls. Everyone is at risk for the occasional unexpected injury. But if you had an accident, would you be prepared for the extra expenses related to your recovery? With group off-the-job accident insurance from Allstate Benefits, you get valuable coverage that supplements your existing major medical insurance. Coverage is guaranteed issue if you sign up during the initial enrollment. There are no medical exams or tests to take. Here's an example of how the coverage might work. John is on his way to the store and gets in a car accident. He ends up being taken by ambulance to the hospital and undergoes surgery. Sounds expensive, doesn't it? Fortunately for John, he has group off-the-job accident insurance from Allstate Benefits. After filing his claim, he receives cash benefits that can help him pay for the expenses associated with his care. He can even use it to help cover his everyday living expenses, which is especially helpful. Accidents happen. It's never too late to start protecting yourself and your loved ones with group off-the-job accident insurance from Allstate Benefits. For more information, talk to your employer or visit allstatebenefits.com. Are you in good hands? You can be.
So aside from doing this in English, we also did a Spanish version as well as a Chinese version. That way, as Allstate continues to grow and continues to roll these pieces out, they can leverage the animations and it can be spread across those different languages. You know, it's unique to see what a role that these animated type media presentations are taking as far as handling customer service requests as well as telling stories that previously we relied on individual print pieces or standalone PowerPoint presentations. So what we've been able to effectively do is work with some pretty amazing brands and clients to help them better tell their stories, better engage their audiences, and really utilize that multimedia side to make sure people get it, make sure they understand what we're trying to convey to them. And I think to kind of come full circle in this thing, the biggest takeaway from the transition into the multimedia side and into the website is print becomes a very important part of the process, because we're typically utilizing print and email as well as outbound phone calls to drive people to these environments where we can showcase this media, where we can engage those individuals and really tell those stories. What we're going to do is we're going to take a break and let you guys go at the buffets here for a little bit. And when I come back on, I'm going to go through a turnkey campaign and showcase some of the analytics as far as open rates, click-throughs, actual activations, and break down kind of soup to nuts a full multi-channel campaign that was also done in the professional sports space. And you'll be able to see how it came to fruition, what the open rates were, and then what the actual ROI associated with that campaign would be. So that is the plan, and we'll see you guys after lunch. Thank you, sir. All right. So you've seen the creative, you've seen the components involved in these campaigns. We've looked through some of the digital media and some of the engaging content. I'm going to show you a couple of additional campaigns, and we're going to walk through the entire process and also look at the back end. Because at the end of the day, you can have the most creative, most innovative campaign, but if it doesn't drive revenue and drive results, it's not effective and it's not scalable. So the campaign that's on the screen right this second is a Oklahoma City Thunder mobile ticketing platform. We worked with the Thunder to develop this program, and it was a very simple ask. The Thunder are trying to make it easier for season ticket holders to share their tickets with their friends and family, and also eliminate some of the costs that they're seeing in reprinting tickets. So what we were actually able to do was to create an online survey that we drove an individual to a landing page via a print piece and an email, and gave them the ability to click which option they'd prefer to use for their ticketing platform. So very, very simple. The campaign was segmented for the individual account manager and account rep for that person. Again, we use the multimedia side here, and you'll see this media basically explains what the mobile ticketing option is for these individuals.
Thank you for your continued support of the Oklahoma City Thunder. As part of our ongoing effort to enhance our fans' experience, the Thunder is excited to announce a new and convenient way for you to access Thunder basketball this upcoming season by using your smartphone as your game ticket. Here's how it works. Once prompted by the Thunder, simply visit thunder-mobile.com and insert your online account manager username and password. You can now do this from almost any mobile phone with internet access. At that point, you will be able to manage your online account via your smartphone, just like you have on your desktop computer in the past. Simply forward, resell, or print your tickets straight from your phone with the touch of a screen, or use the phone as your entry into the arena. At the arena, your phone will be scanned like your ticket, and you will receive a seat locator that will help you and arena support staff locate your seats. You can still print, forward, or resell your tickets from either your desktop or mobile phone. At the end of this short presentation, please choose your preferred ticket delivery option for the upcoming season below and click Submit. We ask that you please provide your preferred option by August 1st. If you do not respond by August 1st, we will automatically provide you the mobile ticket option, replacing the traditional paper tickets. If you have any questions about the process, please don't hesitate to contact your Thunder account manager.
So what we saw with this campaign was a 91% activation rate. So the communications that went out to these individuals drove them to this landing page, which we previously showed, and on that page they made their selection. What this equated to in a dollars and cents standpoint was they had 10% of these individuals immediately adopt the mobile platform for their ticketing. The average saving per customer that comes from the Thunder's side equates to about $250 per customer. So from a dollars and cents standpoint, what they were able to do was significantly decrease their costs on a per customer basis, but also keep that communication channel open with that end customer and help answer some questions that people had about the process and how things actually worked from their standpoint. What we did with this campaign was we actually cut off the activation date. What you can see is it had to be made by August 1st, which significantly increased not only people on the page, but actually getting them to make a simple choice. It's something we were talking about during the break. It's very, very simple to send a communication to your customer. It's a lot more difficult to make that communication relevant and actually get them to engage in these feedback loops with you, and then to continue to communicate with your existing organization. So what we've really tried to do in this type of program is to use that multimedia side and get people engaged, get them to take action, and then be able to quantify those results, which has been very, very effective for them and continues in that same vein as they prompt future communications to their customer base. Also on the professional sports side, this is a Miami Dolphins communication piece that we put together, and I'm going to go into some results here from another NBA program, but I wanted to stop on this real quick in my deck. We talk about the relevance of print quite a bit and the ultimate product placement. Something that we did for the Dolphins to communicate with their fans and their customers was to actually create a personalized experience for them where you take the ultimate product placement and actually put the individual and put their last name on a jersey. So we talk about fans and brand enthusiasts. The ability for me, a fan, to have kind of this unreal experience where the entire thing puts me into that experience becomes a really, really positive and powerful piece. Now, this doesn't have to be a sports team. We see this across the board in the travel and hospitality space, where somebody has a VIP experience where they actually feel like everything is being created, everything was developed just for them. Again, that ultimate product placement. And I'm going to show you this media here that actually took somebody in the first-person approach of suiting up and actually being behind the scenes for this Miami Dolphins team.
From Miami-Dade, Broward, and the Keys, this is South Florida's CBS 4 News.
Good evening, South Florida. I'm Shannon Horry.
And I'm Antonio Mora. Will he or won't he? That seems to be the big question on the mind of every Dolphins fan tonight.
The Fins have been hot on the trail of this man all off-season and appear to be close to finalizing a deal.
That's right. You could feel the tension at Dolphin Stadium today as everyone from fans through the owners wanted to know just one thing.
Jeff, you going to sign him or what?
Yeah, we're looking at it. I mean, I'm not going to say that we're not, but the interest level I'm not going to comment on.
Public outcry to make this signing happen has been mounting ever since last season. And try as they might, Dolphin players and coaching staff seemed unable to talk about anything else.
He brings an enthusiasm and an excitement into the building. I mean, this guy he's an early morning guy and a late night guy, so, he brings some excitement to the whole group, and that's important.
Just the aura of him having him out there, even if he's not making a big play, just that intensity he brings and all the hooting and hollering, a lot of guys feed off that. And
he's just like me, he's very outgoing, likes to laugh, always cracking jokes. And
you have this opportunity, you don't want to let it go, and you want to keep playing.
This is South Florida's CBS 4 News.
So, what do you say? Welcome to the Miami Dolphins. Let's go tell the fans.
told you what it takes to come in here and do what you just did now. Listen to me now. Every single one of you guys had it here tonight. You said these things. Never let anybody tell you you can't, because you can't. There's new goals now, okay? There's new goals. I told you a long time ago, guys. Don't
So this started off as a very, very simple campaign that things escalated, and it turned into, as you just saw, a very, very long video. One of the things that I did want to bring up about this is the return on investment for this particular campaign generated over $9 million as far as season ticket sales go. And the communications went out to people that had purchased past individual game tickets, as well as people that had previously owned season tickets but hadn't renewed yet. When we watch that video, it's unique because it's a very, very long piece. And when you're looking at it without being a Dolphins fan, it's very easy to see that it really drags on. And it's interesting when we look back and analyze some of these campaigns, because just like you do in your businesses, we're always learning, and hindsight's always 20/20. What we ended up seeing was, from a viral aspect, there were over 120,000 of these unique videos that ended up being created, and a big piece that played a part there was social media. So what we were allowing people to do was to share not only their videos, but also links to the personalized site out on their social media side, which ended up yielding quite a bit of traffic to the Miami Dolphins site. Now, what's interesting about that is that you can't actually quantify and equate a return on investment to all those individuals that viewed it, because they didn't have buying power. And this is something that we see on a daily basis. And I'm not sure how many people have seen the campaign that's recently been out. Well, it was about a year ago that it was published, and it's the Dollar Shave Club videos. It's kind of a unique scenario, and actually very similar in the sense that Dollar Shave Club was a startup company that put together a short viral video that they then published out onto the web, and they had a series of social sites that carried it. And basically it was this comedic video that got people excited about the brand Dollar Shave Club. If you haven't seen it, I strongly suggest that you Google the video. I don't have it here on my machine, but it's an interesting talking point. Basically what happened in this piece was there was a guy that did a cameo, and he happened to be the president of the company. And as he walked through his warehouse, he talked about basically razor blades. The fact that we all use razor blades on a daily basis, and it's something that we end up buying them from the local store, and there's got to be a better way for us to get just the shave tech that we need and deliver it in a convenient manner. And his solution that he comes to towards the end of the piece is this idea that by joining the subscription model, you can essentially opt in that on a monthly basis you'll receive your razor blades from Dollar Shave Club. And at the last look on it basically yielded that within the first week of this campaign launching and this viral video, they equated over 12,000 subscribers to that actual Dollar Shave Club. Now, granted, when it was all said and done, it was a lot more than $1 for just a razor blade. But what they were able to do was to bridge that gap between having a humorous video and actually getting people to make a buying decision based on that media, which is something that we all strive to do. So to circle back to this campaign, that was the idea, was that we wanted to engage people, but we understand that there is there's a need to engage with that end customer, a need to get them excited. But at the end of the day, they have to make a buying decision. They have to pull the trigger. They have to not just raise their hand, but get them to donate, get them to join the organization, or get them to actually purchase a product or service. And I have a handful of other samples that are on here, but what I want to do is take you through an Orlando Magic campaign, soup to nuts, and show you all of the individual results from that campaign. What you might recognize this gentleman. They were going through a unique situation. The Magic were in 2011 when the lockout took place, and it got a little bit complicated to communicate with their customers, and it was a very, very difficult time for them to reach out and ask for season ticket renewals. So they had a whole bunch of different vendors that they were previously using for their print communications, for their mobile technology, for their digital media side, and then also for their promotional products. So what we did was we centralized that whole experience for the client and created a completely turnkey campaign that branched all the way across, starting with the physical letter that went out to their individual season ticket holders. It spanned into their email communications, and really had a centralized look and feel across the board. So what we were able to do was to work with their internal team to create this workflow that created the customer journey for them. So each aspect of their renewal campaign was handled by our team. Like I said, the email, the direct mail, including a personalized URL, and everything was tracked and quantified into our analytics platform. So the idea was that from square one, we'd be able to reach out to those customers, engage them, drive them to the web where we could then use multimedia to get them excited, to pull on their heartstrings, and then let's hit them with a buying decision and make it as easy as possible. So the platform that I'm going to show you here was developed just for this particular purpose. And what we did is we built a completely integrated online renewal process. So starting with the initial communication and driving somebody to their personalized site, we actually outlined a completely soup to nuts way for somebody to renew online, to change their seats, to add additional seats, as well as their parking and different benefits. But what was unique in this particular situation was we also had a credit that we were dealing with because the season hadn't started on time as it was supposed to. So this entire process was soup to nuts for the end consumer who could then go on and navigate it. And you can see briefly here the layout for the actual site itself. And essentially what happened was we were able to drive that traffic, we'll get into the results here in a second, and engage those individuals with the media. So little things like having digital swag on the site, allowing people to download things like wallpapers and different images, all played a role in this process. Pretty simple. This is what the print pieces looked like, and there was nothing unique about them except for the fact that they were totally dynamic. So every individual received their completely personalized experience, and at the bottom, which is in the blue here, there was a link to their personalized URL where they could go through this entire experience. So we actually used a windowed envelope that went out to the individuals, and it just had their address peeking through in a very, very simple look and feel. So our goal was to take them from this print piece, drive them to the web where we could then see what actions they were taking and identify those hand raisers out there. So let's take a look at some of the results from the campaign itself. So we started off with 3,500 recipients, and what you'll see is there were a series of touches that as we go from left to right, we were suppressing the list and pulling people out of the communications. So starting out with the email side of things, starting with 3,500 in the recipient, we had just under 2,000 opens on it. And then we were able to click through and see how many of those individuals actually clicked through and then access the personalized URL. So starting off with the 3,500, our initial click rate was just over 60%. And as you see these touches, as they went on throughout the time period, we were decreasing the total audience, and we were still seeing on the 6th and 7th touch that these individuals were still performing at over a 13% response rate with regards to seeing the link in their email, clicking through and accessing their personalized URL. The actual renewal statistics, what we found from this campaign was there was a 31% completion rate for the renewal process out on the website itself. So 31% of them actually went through the entire process online and handled that soup to nuts. we had 32% of those individuals take no action whatsoever, which was discouraging to us. So what we ended up doing was arming the customer with another version of these personalized videos that their reps actually sent out directly to the individuals to try to activate. I'm going to show you that media in just a second. And then as of June 1st, the in-progress renewal rate was right about 9%. So individuals that were on the fence that hadn't made those decisions yet. The goal here really was to give the client the ability to look at a snapshot of where their responses fell, what people were, where they were in the process, and actually see those people that were on the fence so they could prompt personalized follow-up. I'll show you the media that was actually used, and you'll see the heartstrings side of it.
I'm David Steele alongside Matty Gukas. And Matty, what a night it is at the Amway Center as the Magic get set to play one of the biggest games of the year. But Matt, we can't avoid talking about what is the biggest story of the year.
Well, David, that's right. For weeks now, the anticipation has been mounting, revolving around the signing of this season's biggest acquisition, a pure competitor and a natural leader who brings unwavering passion and spirit to an organization founded on those qualities. But what else can be said about this person, David?
Well, it's pure excitement. And Matty, it's infectious. Right now, let's take a look at some of the events that led up to this monumental evening.
As I said earlier, I think this is a huge opportunity for us and our organization. Something that we could not pass up on. The passion that this individual will bring to our organization is huge.
Just to see the energy and the effort from guys, just the life, that everybody has. It's just been great.
Well, I definitely think we're getting someone who brings a necessary intensity to the team. I don't think you can ever have too much of the same thing, especially if that thing is essential to success.
When I was presented with the idea of this signing, I knew it was going to be great for our organization. With everything we have going on here, the success of the team on the floor, our new Amway Center, I knew this signing was going to be perfect and right in line with our goal of winning an NBA championship.
It's the kind of acquisition you dream about as a coach.
But I mean, it's cool. It's good, to have somebody like that because it pushes us.
Their presence has a natural draw that everyone in the building can feel.
We're trying to win games with the transition, so.
Just leadership and teamwork.
You guys have had to see what it's been like around here since this all began. I mean, how could you not be excited about such a prospect?
Really good for chemistry and camaraderie. And
ever since the hype began circulating, our fans have been showing their eagerness and support to make the deal happen.
You know what they bring to the table.
Passionate, intensity.
An unwavering competitor.
Like I said, I couldn't do without them.
Obviously an amazing story, and what should lead up to an amazing night.
And then we had a variable call to action that came in at the end. So I think the takeaway or the bottom line here is I know I've harped on this idea of relevance and this idea of the ultimate product placement. And whether it's a sports team and you're trying to generate a renewal, or it's a brand that's attempting to add people to the organization or to sell a retail product or to gain awareness about their initiatives, making things easy for a consumer and then using that multimedia to actually engage those individuals and get them to take action has become an integral part of our success, and something that we feel very, very strongly about. So it's been across a handful of different verticals, and it's something that I think the use of digital media, the use of relevant content across all media is continuing to evolve and expand, and is something that we learn about on a daily basis, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work. We like to call it marketing labs, because that's essentially what we're doing, is testing programs, testing different creative, and diversifying the offering, and really continuing to learn and expand on what's driving response, what's driving those hand raisers, and what's getting people to actually take action and move forward. So that idea of a unique experience, the idea of triggering follow-up, it's something that we do on a daily basis, and not ever being satisfied with the results that you're currently getting, because this ability to do split testing, the idea of different subject lines if you're doing email, the ability to have a different variable image on a print piece or in an email, or even different media that's served up for different types of consumers when you're speaking to them, all plays a role in driving higher response rates, higher return on investment, and again, higher customer engagement. I put a last slide in here, and then we'll open this up for some questions and let you guys fire anything at me that you'd like to hear more about or more detail on. Here's kind of a montage of some of the different print pieces that were associated with several of these campaigns. And what you'll see that's front and center in here is we really try to minimize the amount of copy that's used on these pieces, and really let the piece drive somebody's interest and drive them to another environment where we can ask them additional questions and gain additional feedback from those individuals. Ideally, what we're doing is driving them to a landing page or a personalized website. So having just enough information on a piece to get somebody excited, get them interested, and give them a reason to actually go out to that particular site where we can then prompt follow-up. You see this strange looking light bulb that's on that blue piece to the left. This is an example of one of the products that we brought to market. It's called the Hurricane bulb. And we've been using that in the home improvement space as an incentive to get somebody to actually take action and schedule an in-home consultation. So if you look at that print piece in the middle, you'll see that bulb is actually displayed on the piece itself. So that idea of using a promotional item, a promotional product that's branded to get somebody to raise their hand and say, okay, I'll bite, and then being able to fully integrate that into your communications becomes that much more important. And if you haven't had a chance to go back to the promotional products and see the other booths in the back, I definitely recommend it, because that becomes a very important part here. And we get flooded with thousands and thousands of marketing messages on a daily basis, and oftentimes using that extra incentive to get somebody to take action or to reward your existing members or customer base becomes that much more important and can drive your response even higher. So in closing, relevance, integrated communications, just making sure that all of your communications have the same tone, the same look and feel, and that you can build rather than just doing disparate or single communications that go out to a group. And lastly, the ability to create a customer journey is probably the most effective tool in shaping your repeat business, your repeat donors, and giving for your organizations. That ability to actually lay out a path or several different paths and say, okay, I'm going to reach out to my customers, I'm going to communicate with them, and not only am I going to ask them questions, but I'm actually going to listen to their feedback. And based on the way somebody responds to certain initiatives, certain questions, I'm actually going to dictate follow-up to that individual, just like we saw from that Herman campaign in the beginning of the presentation, where based on what somebody does, we're then prompting relevant follow-up and making sure that we continue that communication across the board. So that being said, happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. I know I threw a lot of different things at you and bounced around a little bit, but happy to speak to anything that you guys want to bring up or fire at me.
So I'll run around with a microphone. If you just raise your hand, I'll come to you. If no one has any questions, Ben, where do you find social media fitting in as far as Facebook and Twitter and all of the nonsense out there?
So social media is one of those things that is, it has its positives and also has its negatives. It plays an integral part in our campaigns, the ability for people to share information with others. And whether you like it or not, people are going to talk about your brand and talk about the experience that they've had on social media. So what we like to do is always create a play in the campaigns that we do to encourage viral sharing. A lot of times this is done through some type of an incentive, whether it's a drawing or a giveaway or an incentive for somebody to share with friends, basically giving them the incentive to help boost the campaign, help boost your message, and get that out into the social space. You've seen a lot of the campaigns that we've run are comedic in nature. And what we've seen recently is there's so many millions and millions of videos out there that what really seems to gain viral activity and traction are things that have some comedic flavor to them. So finding unique ways to tell your story, to keep the brand held in the highest regard without having too much of a sales pitch in it, really helps us gain additional traction in the social media space.
Great. Any other questions? I'm coming. Oh, great. You got to pass through.
I had a question on the Orlando Magic campaign you did. You broke down, and maybe you said it and I missed it, you broke down how people renewed online, offline, but how was the renewal rate different than years prior?
Sure. So years past, and good question, by the way, years past what they had done was a traditional mailing that went out that required somebody to actually return that form and do a business reply mail. That was something that they wanted to get away from because of the heavy lifting that had to happen on their reps side. So number one, what we did was we streamlined that workflow, and we actually increased the response rate on that side by about 5% was the increase there. But I think the real value in the process was the ability for somebody to actually change their seats, to add a playoff option, to add parking options, because what they could do is, with this dynamic form that we had on the personalized website, they could actually go through and they could alter all those things on demand. So what we saw were a lot of these individuals had played with different seating options that in the past they had never taken the time to reach out to their rep and see what that would do to their renewal. So what we were able to do then was to give them a data export on everybody that had raised their hand essentially and looked at different seating options. That way their reps could follow up and not do so in a big brother way. Hey, I saw what you looked at. But if somebody had looked at a second level or a third level seating option, the reps would actually send them incentives, discounts, and call these individuals based on that information that they captured from the site. So from the client's standpoint, that ability to cross-sell and upsell was invaluable to them.
Any other questions? So I have one. Whoop.
Can you talk about the timeline from when a client comes and says, I want to have this campaign, to the production and then actually getting it out there? Because I do video, I shoot and edit video, and they take a long time. I mean, I saw the shots that you guys had and the editing and the music and also the expense a lot of times to have a production company shoot all that. I mean, you can get an editor will charge you $200 an hour to edit video. So
that's right.
Can you talk about timelines and production costs?
Absolutely. So typically the way the process starts is we'll sit down with a customer and we'll do a creative brainstorming session. So once we figure out, okay, what is it that we're trying to convey, we'll put together a timeline that's specific for that particular shoot or that particular campaign. What we're typically looking at is between 30 and 45 days. So some of the pieces that I showed where you're seeing tons of extras and especially in the sports space, those were all done in a 45-day timeline. The expense side of that, it's interesting because what we've been able to do, especially because we're handling every aspect of the campaign, from the data to the outbound communications to the web build, the video portion, as well as tying it all in with analytics, we've been able to streamline the process and remove a lot of third-party markup that you typically see. So a campaign like the Miami Dolphins or the Orlando Magic, they're typically done for under 60,000, turnkey, soup to nuts, which if you went out and priced, which our clients have done, priced the individual pieces, it would be about triple that to get a production company, to get a data house, to get a print house. And that was where the relationship between us and Corporate Press and Colorcraft really came in, because we were doing so much passing business back and forth that we were able to really streamline things. And I think the last part to that would be the ability to eliminate headaches on your part, because that's probably the most difficult part about running an integrated marketing campaign with multiple vendors. Would be you literally have to talk to these guys and stay on top of it on each aspect of the campaign. And the more elements that you add to your campaign, the more vendors you have to actually bring in to help execute that, and it just becomes more of a chore than anything else. So the beauty of this type of a solution is really that turnkey process and the ability to have one point of contact and make sure that everything is in sync and in line, and then able to be quantified based on that one single campaign. So you're right, though. The post-production process can be very, very expensive. So that can add up quickly.
So I think it's important to remember too, like in the nonprofit world, $60,000 that's a big check for a nonprofit. But how many people would spend $60,000 if they knew they were going to get $9 million in return? Exactly. So there's cost and then there's return on that investment. We have a question over here.
Oh, hi. Yeah, I noticed in the Orlando Magic and Jacksonville Jaguar campaign seemed to me much more effective than the Dolphins one. And one key difference was that those two emphasized the venue as part, which is central to the experience, which the Dolphins one did not. So how, given that, how would you translate that into a campaign for a business where physical space, like an online retailer, physical space isn't that important, or there isn't one at all?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the difficulty, and I'm glad you picked up on it, in kind of creating this fantasy for somebody is it's not realistic that an individual could actually go out to the stadium and gain the access that they do in this personalized experience. So in a B2B space or in a B2C space, what you're typically looking at would be, what is it about the experience that's got to be completely unique that they typically couldn't go through it? If you shot a video of me walking through a Verizon wireless store in the first person, it wouldn't be nearly as effective and it wouldn't pull on the heartstrings, right? But the second that I'm walking through that store and all of a sudden there's smartphones and monitors and different elements that are now going to be relevant and personalized to me, that's when it gets that much more exciting for the individual. So if I see a text screen pop up in that same store and it says, Ben, catch the game tonight. And then I'm walking through and there is, there's a soccer graphic that comes across one of the other monitors. That ability to make it that much more relevant for the consumer is where I think that adds value. We actually did a personalized program with Liberty Tax that's still used today, but we did it a couple of years ago, and it was all about acquiring new franchisees. So it was in a B2B space, and we actually did a similar personalized approach where you actually walked through and actually ran through at one point one of the Liberty Tax offices. And I think what was unique about it was all personalized and relevant for the end consumer that was actually watching the video, but also you got to do a sit down with John Hewitt, which previously you wouldn't have been able to do, and that's not realistic. So I think finding that common ground and that fantastic addition is what really separates these campaigns. It's really something that there's got to be the value there for the consumer in order to make it exciting, make it viral, and make it effective for you.
I'm over here, Ben. We have a question.
Hi, I work for a charity that has more serious subject matter, children exploited and missing. Do you have any case studies where, obviously the comedic interruptions wouldn't work? Do you have any case studies that you could talk about where the subject matter was more serious?
Absolutely. We do quite a bit of work with the local hospitals in Florida, and hospice is something that that we do quite a bit of both TV production as well as some web-based initiatives. And it's a great point because while I did bring up some very lighthearted campaigns, when you're talking about something, an organization, whether it's autism research or whether it's hospice or different type campaigns, we have to put our serious hats on. And one specific campaign that I'd like to reference was a hospice walk that we did, and we did an outbound print promotion that drove people to a website, and we had a series of speakers who had recently gone through hospice with their families. So whether it was a father who had gone through it with his wife, or it was a grandson that had gone through hospice with their grandparent. And what we were able to do was to create a short video series that took all the different vantage points for these individuals, and then we segmented the list that the mailing went out to, so that if you were in that younger demographic, you'd see the grandparent version of the video. If you were in, I think we called it a 35 to 55 range, that you would see a parent. And these were testimonials that were relevant because the subject matter was serious, but what they were able to do was speak to that individual, and they actually felt like, okay, I get it, I can completely understand where this person's coming from. And I think that's really where the difference comes in, is the ability to have that relevant media that somebody can view that really pulls on their heartstrings and makes sense to them. Absolutely.
Anyone else? Questions? So it's also important, he keeps talking about relevancy and transparency. These videos allow you to have that dashboard you can track. So all of you guys that signed up for this event through our Pearl, I was on that dashboard morning, noon, and night praying that we would get people to come. So I know exactly who clicked, when they clicked, how many times they clicked, who they forwarded to. So that transparency is vital to our marketing efforts. Okay? And that's an important part of what Ben talks about. So Ben, I've got my friend over here, Gustavo, and Gustavo is starting a new business, and he doesn't have $60,000 to spend, but yet we've talked to Gustavo. You don't mind if I use you? No. Good. So talk a little bit about what we're doing with Gustavo and as far as budgets and making this work to different budgets.
Yes, it's a good point. Gustavo, do you mind if we share any of your information? Okay, you're going to get a plug here. So
that was my intent.
Absolutely. Just making sure. So Gustavo's company, Veloshine, has a very unique product in that they produce bike wipes. But what's unique about them is these are not your average, small moist towelette that you'd see in a restaurant. These are made for the avid cyclist. So they've got a very, very unique product that's got a very targeted audience that they need to reach out to. What we did is we analyzed Gustavo's current efforts, and we looked at, starting with his website, what the user experience was like. And one of the first things that we realized was it was very difficult for an individual to go through and actually purchase these items because depending on what type of tablet or what type of smartphone or even what browser you were in, there was a different view, and it was just a little bit confusing. So the first thing that we laid out was a very cost-effective solution, somewhere between $2,500 and $4,500, that would allow us to give the site a more user-friendly experience, so that when an individual went there, they'd be able to see, okay, what's the product? How do I purchase the product? And then where do we go from there? The second thing we did was we scoped out including a piece of multimedia on there as well. So I want to know the second I get to that site, within 30 seconds, I need to be able to understand what the value proposition is for these particular products. So what is it about this product that's unique? Why is it superior to anything else out there? And why do I need the product itself? So then we got to thinking, and we said, okay, we can do this, but we still need to get people to the actual site itself, right? We're gonna fix the site. We're gonna create media that's engaging, but how do we get people to it? So went out and did some research, and we're looking at different higher-end biking magazines, different events where we can actually do some promotion for his product. But a big thing that we wanted to focus on was coming up with a campaign that would have some viral activity to it. So the tagline that we're playing with right now is wipe your bike. And it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but the plan here is for us to put together a social media campaign that's going to essentially reach out to people who are the loved ones, the boyfriends, the girlfriends, the friends of biking enthusiasts that understand how important people's bikes are, and basically have an ongoing theme that talks about, did you wipe your bike today? And the goal here is we're not making light of the product, but what we're doing is we're tugging on the heartstrings of the individuals that are close to the cyclists and be able to give them something funny that they can post on the social media of these individuals, that they can share, that they can tag people in, which will then drive people to the actual site, which will be throughout the piece itself and also in some of the meta tags on the video itself. So what we're doing is essentially creating a mousetrap, if you will, to get people excited, get them talking about these particular wipes, and then give them an easy process that they can go through. Sure. That they can go through kind of soup to nuts and make it as user-friendly as possible.
What, you want to let people know that you'll be in the back taking orders? No.
Thanks, Ben. That's all true, but more importantly, what I used to have, and I'm into transition, I used to have a separate warehouse and fulfillment center. I used to have a separate website hosting. I used to have a separate company helping me with marketing, but now with these guys, one-stop shop. So Tim and company, they're going to do all the warehousing. So I'm moving a lot of product to their warehouse. They have order fulfillment. I'll be able to have much better grasp of my inventory. So that's really the compelling value proposition, because this is my passion, but it's not my main business. It's a side business, and the less headaches I have, so it's all integrated, the marketing, the fulfillment, the warehousing. I have a large customer list, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I would do traditional mailing, very expensive. So that to me is probably the bigger reason to go with these guys as a one-stop shop, and we'll do marketing, giveaways, and promotions, and maybe free bicycles and what have you, and get everybody in this room cycling.
That's right. Anyone else? Questions, comments, anything?
Ben, could you touch just a little bit on, let's say an organization wants to do a video, but they don't have a $60,000 budget, but there are things you can do without hiring talent, actors and actresses, through video animation, and that can be very, very cost effective, but still has the power of video. And I wonder if you could just address that for a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. So several of the examples that you saw, the handwritten Allstate portion, or even the Oklahoma City Thunder piece, those are very, very inexpensive programs that we create that use professional voice talent and then also use motion graphics that our editors design and build. So when you're doing something like that, they can be turned very, very quickly. Those programs are done in less than 30 days. We go through the exact same process that we do with regards to putting together creative storyboarding, brainstorming sessions, and then mapping out what the program is going to look like. But you're talking more in the $3,500 to $5,500 range, which makes them very, very cost effective. But I think the key is when you're using that media, that's one part of the puzzle, and being able to integrate that into a workflow that is going to be relevant for the consumer becomes that much more important. So the ability to use the motion graphics side and to use voice talent allows us to create different versions of that media, like what you saw in the Allstate piece. And that way you can have a very different piece that utilizes the same assets but speaks to each one of your different segments or different audiences without breaking the bank on it. So that's something that we do on a daily basis, really, and they can be very, very effective. And in often cases, when it comes to translation and doing them in other languages, it's exponentially more cost effective when it comes to changes or revoicing. You've seen some of these professional sports pieces. To go back and make changes to any of that footage would require reshooting, which is something that you see across the board. But when you've got an animation that's been created, it's as simple as a voiceover pickup and then being able to change some of your graphics or substitute additional text, and changes that can be done in a day rather than in weeks and costing you a fortune.
Anyone else? So Ben, these fine people are going to be getting an email.
That's true. So the campaign that we showed with the Rockstar example, we're actually going to be doing a follow-up communication to each one of you in this room where we'll put you into that experience so you can have a first-person personalized experience. So you'll receive an email and then a personalized video, and we thought it would be relevant given the theme of the event, and have your own personalized Rockstar video that you can you actually see the workflow firsthand.
Okay, so that wraps it up for us. We appreciate you guys coming out. You're spending a good part of your day with us, and please take your pad folios and your guitar pens with you. They're yours to keep. And if you have any questions, any follow-ups, contact the person that invited you here, one of your corporate press colorcraft salespeople. We can set up appointments. Ben is up here every month. He will be back again this month at the end of August. But he's always available to us and our clients. So don't be afraid. Sometimes it takes a little while to digest this stuff and kind of see how you're going to fit it in. It may hit you next week. It may hit you next month. We are here for you. Just give us a call. We'll set it up and we'll see what we can do. Thank you again for your time, and have safe travels back.